Well, just 2 months from now, voters will help decide the fate of the Great Highway in San Francisco with Proposition K. It's already drawn a lot of emotions on both sides. Anne Makovec is with us to explain the measure and the debate. Anne?
Yeah, Liz, this is prime oceanfront property. So should it be used for people to travel up and down the coast or to give people a little more space to enjoy the view? Ballot measure would permanently close the Great Highway to cars for the span between Lincoln and Slopes and transform it into a public park. It's an idea that started with the pandemic. Popular pilot program closed the road to cars on weekends, opening it up to pedestrians and cyclists. Prop K would allow the city to build infrastructure to make Great Highway Park permanent 7 days a week. The Yes on K campaign says this will make the oceanfront more accessible and that it will revitalize small businesses on the city's west side. They also point out that the southern part of the Great Highway is set to close to cars regardless by early 2026. So they say this is an opportunity for people to enjoy the ocean in ways you can't on the beach.
Whether that's parents with a stroller, people in wheelchairs, people riding bikes, they want to enjoy our coast in an active way because this is an active city, and a park promenade allows them to do that.
Opponents of the plan, though, call it a great highway robbery. They say the closure will make getting around the Sunset District more difficult and congested, and they have concerns about the environmental impact of a park by the ocean.
More and more, cars are being shut out. I hate to say this, but buses and bikes are not the only way to get around town.
The measure needs a more than 50% majority to pass. Liz.
All right, Anne, thanks so much. Well, still ahead, we'll talk live with some of the major players in the Great Highway debate and ask them, is it time for a change? Stay with us. The voices are growing louder in San Francisco on both sides of Proposition K on San Francisco's November ballot. If approved, it would mean permanently banning cars from the upper Great Highway south of Golden Gate Park and converting the area into a public recreation space for pedestrians and cyclists. Today, we are hearing from both sides of the issue. Joining me now is political commentator Richie Greenburg, who wrote the argument against Proposition K. Richie, thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, on paper, Prop K seems like a great thing, right? Great place to take families. Drivers are already having to reroute because of the southern end of the highway being closed for coastal erosion. Why do you think that there are misconceptions about this measure, though?
Well, first, thank you for having me on, Elizabeth. This is a really important story to be telling voters here in San Francisco. And the reason is because this is among the most bizarre, most deceptive, and misaligned piece of legislation that I have ever seen in the 25 years almost that I've been living here in San Francisco. This is a solution it's looking for a problem. We don't have a problem. We have, as you see right now on screen, there is a two-way lane. We have a north-south major road, and we have to the east of it, just feet away, is a paved pathway for joggers and dog walkers to use. So this Prop K is claiming that it has been a park over the last few years, which it has not. Walking on asphalt, riding a bicycle on asphalt does not make this a park. There are so many false claims, so many bizarrely false claims that the proponents, those who are supportive of closing this street, closing the road, are making. And what we're doing is we're pushing back.
This feels a lot like the closing of JFK Drive just a few years ago. Voters decided to keep it closed to cars, but there were similar concerns about it. Is this idea different than that? Because we've seen how that area is really popular now.
Well, it's completely different because this is an existing, very highly used during the week volume of cars and trucks and delivery and patients going for treatment and students and tourists all use this. This is a ongoing. It's a road. I actually was on it about an hour and a half ago, coming up from the south. People commute on this. Thousands of people. It's not abandoned. It's not redundant. It is actually in use. What you're seeing right now is not on the weekdays. What you're showing right now on screen is on the weekends. And They make the claim, the pro Prop K people claim that this is the third most visited park in the city today, which I call completely hogwash. Now, they need to come clean. These people who are yes on K have to tell us why on earth do they want to blockade this road? Why do they want to stop people from being able to freely travel between the Richmond district and the Sunset district? It makes no sense. There's no logic at all behind this at all.
One quick question, though, Richie, before I let you go. You know, you're claiming in your argument that it's going to add to more traffic in the surrounding neighborhoods that at one point were very quiet. That's why the people that live there moved to those areas. But a city report found that that actually wasn't the case, that it didn't add congestion.
Well, that can't be true, because if you have 10,000, 20,000 cars coming through, where are they going to go? They're being diverted off of they would be diverted off of the Upper Great Highway into the neighborhoods to then go parallel and then cut back to over where they were trying to get to in the first place. So claiming that this is going to not cause congestion, it's not possible. If you stop the cars coming into there completely, then yes, that would reduce, but you're not stopping them. You're just making them fan out and go through side streets that are not designed for that kind of traffic flow.
Richie Greenberg, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Now, people who do support Proposition K point out a separate chunk of the Great Highway will soon be closed regardless. Join me now is San Francisco Supervisor Joel Engardio. Thank you so much for being with us. You support Proposition K. A big concern with this park is that it would create traffic gridlock, as we just were mentioning, in the surrounding neighborhoods that used to be relatively quiet. What is your argument to that it actually won't have an impact?
Well, what we have to understand is that the greatest highway has actually already lost its greatest utility. And that was a way for folks in the Richmond district to bypass San Francisco and head to the Daly City, then Peninsula. As you mentioned, there's a section of the road south of Sloat that's literally falling into the ocean. It's already been legislated to close. So Mother Nature has thrown us a lemon, so to speak. Like, we will never be able to use a great highway to get to Daly City directly anymore. So that opens up the opportunity, the lemonade, so to speak, of what should we do now? What's the best use of the section between Lincoln and Sloat, which, by the way, has no on and off ramps. And so under the closure south of Sloat, people would have a dead end, that forced left turn at Sloat and work their way around the zoo to get to Point South. Or we're suggesting, why don't we turn left at Lincoln instead and take Sunset Boulevard to the same point south? And in the process, we can get a park on this section of the Great Highway. And it's also important to note that the section of the Great Highway that actually connects the Sunset and Richmond neighborhoods is not under consideration for closing. People say, oh, the Great Highway is closing. We have to talk about one section between Lincoln and Sloat, the area that people actually connect with access points. That's going to be open to cars 24/7. So, and as far as the folks who did use Great Highway on their way to Point South, you know, when there's sand episodes, it's already closed up to 65 days a year anyway during the work week. And there's not a Carmageddon because cars naturally divert to Sunset Boulevard already. But we're going to make traffic improvements. So Lincoln will have a faster flow, replace some stop signs with traffic lights. We're going to make improvements on Sunset Boulevard. So the cars are going to be able to flow and get where they need to go. And we get a park out of the deal.
I want to point out, though, that this proposition only really impacts the people who live in this particular part of the city. Should this issue be left up to the people who live in the area versus the San Francisco voters at large, who this may not impact at all? It's too far from their home.
Actually, it impacts everybody. You know why? The coast belongs to every San Franciscan. The coast does not belong to one car driver or one cyclist or even one neighborhood. It belongs to all of us. And what we're doing already on the weekends is the third most visited park in San Francisco, and Recon Park has the data to show it. There's already a demand for people from all over San Francisco to come out and see the coast in a way they cannot see it with just Ocean Beach. Think about it. If you're an elderly person in a wheelchair or a cane, you can't walk on the sand, but you can at this promenade that we have. You can bring your kids out and learn how to ride a bike on the promenade. So you're seeing this popularity already with no cost and just closing the road just on the weekend. So imagine the potential of what this park could become in the future. I see it as a once-in-a-century opportunity to really transform San Francisco. We haven't had an opportunity like this since we built the Golden Gate Bridge. This park could be something that every tourist wants to visit, which means it will be good for business, be good for our local economy. It'll bring joy to generations of people, and it's good for the environment. So it's a win all around, and we can fix the traffic issues. We already know how to divert the traffic. We already know that traffic volume on Sunset Boulevard is down 30%, so there's capacity. So this will work out just fine, and it'll be a feather in the cap for San Francisco.
San Francisco Supervisor Joel Engardio, thank you so much.
Thank you.
To view more content like this, we've selected some videos we think you'll enjoy. And please make sure to like and click the link in the bottom left corner to subscribe.